Welcome everybody to the we're going to do a little quick short video tonight because I don't know, it's late. I'm not working a whole lot during the week, but I figured I'd do an hour or so today just to keep everybody up to date what's going on. I'm getting all set here. Can you guys hear me all right? Type in the chat box, let me know you can hear me okay. I'm using a different setup, so I want to make sure that it sounds all right. I guess I can make this big over on this side. Okay. Let me flip the lights on here. Come on. Yeah, it looks like you can see me okay. See what I'm doing anyway. I wanted to talk about the stiffener sticks that I've been talking about. Now, I already have those ribs glued in, so I can't do it on that one. When you're doing a lost foam jig, you want to make yourself a small triangle like this. And this is to keep the ribs at 90 degrees to the workbench. And how you get that 90 degrees to the workbench is you make this triangle with a larger triangle off the core. And you set the balsa wood on the bench, and you draw that triangle on the balsa wood using this triangle. If that, I don't know, I'll have to show you at a later date. I can't do it here. Maybe I can do it on the next one. But let's talk about how I do the lightning holes and the center sticks. I see we got 5 viewers. Let me know. Excuse me. Let me know if you can hear me okay, because I'm using a different microphone setup. So let's look at this, how I do the holing of the ribs. I take a piece of 1/2 inch, 5/8, whatever piece of brass tubing that you have. I put a piece of sandpaper on the end of it so I can get a good grip for twirling it. But you take an X-Acto and you skive the inside of the tubing, and this makes a nice little hole saw. This doesn't have to be perfect. I've been doing it so long I get it close. On the center line, you just take one turn and you spin a hole in it like so, up to the front. You spin a hole in it like so. Now we'll do the back half. This is the easiest way I've found to hole, to lighten the ribs up. Like I say, it doesn't have to be perfect. I see guys trace the outside, make everything a perfect 1/4 inch around. Well, I like to have a little more wood in my ribs, but I just take a scalpel or X-Acto and connect the 2 holes together. And there again, it doesn't have to be perfect, but try to make it nice, and then pop the pieces out. But I wanted to talk about the stiffener stick that goes on here. Then I take a piece of sandpaper and straighten out the the line. This stiffener piece that I'm talking about goes between the two spars, and I just cut a piece of 3/32 or 16th. You can use either one. 3/16 wide, and you go from the top of the spar, and then I just add a little drop of CA to hold it. Try not to glue your finger like I just did. And then I cut it off at the bottom. And then glue it in, detail glue it, whatever what you want to say. Make sure that it's in there real well. There we go. Let me kick that off. I had some kicker, where, oh, it's right here. I don't want it to stick to the spar yet, so I'll kick it off. Okay, we got somebody typed in chat. Let me look at that real quick. The Hangout was not live yesterday. I'm still wondering what happened. The Hangout, there's a problem with Jitsi, and we haven't figured it out yet, so stand by to stand by. Okay, if you remember when I made these ribs, I numbered them all with the numbers to the top. That way they go in the way they were sanded, because these ribs are sanded at an angle because they're set into the wing at an angle. So you just set it on the line in your cradle. You take your your small triangle that you made and make sure it's perpendicular. And then just a drop of CA. And that's it. I mean, we just did one rib. Try to keep those center spreader sticks on one side. You want it to the inboard side because you're going to put your shear webbing between them. And yes, you need them on the inboard side, probably out three ribs back, because you're going to have that the opening is going to slide through the end of the outboard rib, meaning you're not going to have two holes in here. You're going to have a hole from here to here. So obviously there's not going to be a stick there. However, I do glue a stick there just to add a little strength. It probably adds a little weight. It probably is not necessary, but it's just something, I don't know, makes me feel better. So let's do one more rib. Yeah, I kind of wanted to come on tonight and talk about the Hangout. We tried last night. There's a problem with Jitsi. We couldn't get it to connect to the stream. It said all streams are busy. I have no clue what they're doing. I don't own Jitsi, so I don't have any control on it. Wouldn't it be nice if I owned the internet? It would work. Because I wouldn't let the engineers monkey around trying to fix things that aren't broke. Okay, so we go for the next rib. This is the zen of model building. It's pretty repetitious. That's one of the reasons why, you know, I guess you guys like to watch me do this, but I don't feel that it's all that informative because hell, it's the same thing over and over and over again. How many times can I show how to cut ribs? Or like John said, he got tired of watching me sand ribs. But I thought I'd do my part in this outbreak. That, you know, people are sheltered in place. Nothing really on TV except fake news and sad stuff. So so we'll do this. And I wasn't going to make this a very long video tonight. How's the audio, guys? Can you hear me okay? I'm wearing a headset. That's why I'm asking. Probably sounds like I'm in the control tower or something. If you remember when I did the last Tucker, this is just how it started. Like I said, I won't have this done for the Nats this year. There's just no possible way. This is March, April, May. I don't know. Possible. Especially if we get sheltered in place or something crazy like that. I need to buy some debonder. Anybody know what debonder is? Probably acetone. Okay, Scott, does it sound better than I normally do? I'm normally echoing far away. And right now the mic is right up to my face, basically. Like I say, this is not going to be a long video because it's the same thing over and over and over again. And I still need to make an outboard set of ribs. And I don't think I'm going to show that again on this. I mean, what I need is somebody to categorize my videos, break them down and categorize them. I don't have the time to do it. Somebody was asking me about my hinges and about how to cover a wing. I've covered all that stuff in on my channel. It's just kind of difficult to find. I need to break them up. Kind of like how to build an I-beam wing. Billy, that's a Bob Hunt video. People, how do you build an I-beam? Well, watch the video. It's already on the channel. If you break a rib, don't glue it back together. Make a new one. Just saying. Unless you just don't have any wood, but that's another nice thing about this Lost Foam system. A couple years back when a thumb got put through the leading edge of my Junar, I just cut a big square out of it. I think I showed that on video. And then I came and got the Lost Foam core and cut that rib out and set the rib down in there at the station, and it fit absolutely perfect. It would be very hard to do on a that's why you can't tell where I repaired it, because the pieces fit perfect. It'd be very hard to do by eye. I mean, I've done it, but not as easy. Is this necessary? No, not really. Makes me feel better. Know that my airplane looks the same inside, looks nice inside. Should be sanded on the inside as well as it's sanded on the outside. And that's how you make light airplanes. I don't know how many of you guys remember I didn't do it on video, I don't believe, my S6B Supermarine. Not the Machi, but the M6B. It had a PA-65 in it. I flew it in the 2006 Nationals. The cowl on that was the finest wood. I still got the airplane, I just don't have a motor for it. If anybody's got a PA-65 for sale, let me know. Or will let me borrow one. I'd like to fly that airplane again. It flew really good. Are you bored to death yet? Come on now. Sit where you're supposed to be. Yep. All right, been on 21 minutes. I guess I'll just, I don't know, we got 12 viewers and 7 likes. I just don't get it. When I was a kid, we used to go to the Los Angeles County Fair in Pomona, and they had all kind of exhibits there, glass blowers and blacksmiths, and I was always really interested in watching the glass blowers, and I did learn how to blow glass. I worked for Imperial Valley Sign, a sign shop, and there was a old Mexican guy there who blew neon. I was making channel letters at the time. Those are the covers for that neon tube, and I said it just intrigued me. He taught me how to blow neon glass, the Coors signs, the Miller High Life. As a kid, I was always, hey, mister, how do you do that? How do you do this? How do you do that? Because, like I've said in the past, I didn't have the money to pay somebody to do this, so I had to learn how to do it myself. We go to Whittier Narrows, and there'd be Tom Warden, Bill Noyes, some of the other guys, I can't remember their names. But they'd have these beautiful airplanes. Where'd you buy that? Well, you can't buy that. You got to make it. Well, back in those days, nobody would tell you how to do anything. Kind of had to figure it out. And now there's so very few of us. If I don't show the young guys how to do this won't be around. Of course, with what's going on right now, we might not be around anyway. But at least I went down swinging. Oh. A little excited there. Okay. Jerry and I were talking today about when my dad had a paper route. We had this 49 panel truck, and we used to deliver Herald Examiner papers in El Monte. And you're going to think I'm full of it, but his route was 3,000 papers. And when it would rain, we'd have to roll, fold, correlate, do the inserts, and fold those papers in wax paper. They didn't have plastic back then, they had wax paper. And we'd load them in the back of the panel truck. We'd make 2 loads a night. load them back in the back of the panel truck, and he would steer with his knees and throw with both hands. And my job as a kid was to push the papers forward, keep the thing loaded, so to speak. And my first bicycle came out of the trash on trash day. Then I can't remember what day it was, but every Wednesday night or every second Wednesday of the month or something like that, everybody would put out their big stuff that they didn't want. So my first bike was a girl's bike, but it didn't matter because I had a bicycle, and we built it out of the trash. Took about 4 bikes and put it together. And the funniest story out of that mess, anybody that's older will know what jute is. Jute is carpet padding. It's kind of a cardboard looking hairy material. I don't know what it's made out of. Rope or whatever. And that's what they used to use as padding back in the 60s. Jute. You can look it up. Anyway, we're on this paper route, and my dad spots a big roll of jute. Probably was 4 or 5 foot in diameter. He said, "Hey, if that jute's still here when we're done with our route, we'll come back and pick that up." So we picked that jute up, threw it in the back of the truck. I guess about, 4 or 5 miles down the road, I start itching. I go, "Man, I'm itching, Dad." He said, "Me too." He turned on the light. Now, you got to remember, this 49 sedan delivery truck had a 6-volt system. And anybody that knows anything about those old cars, you had to have a match to see if the lights were on. But he turned on the inside light, and you look back there at that roll of jute, and things were jumping off the jute. It was saturated with fleas. We had to stop and throw that jute out. Remember, this is the guy that opened a hobby shop so that I could pursue my hobby. Matter of fact, I got the master bedroom. I started in the smallest bedroom in the house and kept building airplanes. Outgrew the smallest bedroom, went to the second biggest, outgrew that, ended up in the master bedroom with my workshop in the master bedroom. My mom and dad moved out of there into the second biggest bedroom. And when I outgrew the master bedroom, I took up the whole 2-car garage. That's how much my dad... Because my dad flew airplanes in the 40s. He's been to the Nats with me a couple of times. 3 times, I think. The funniest story about him at the Nationals was with Alan Brickhouse. I don't know if any of you guys know who Alan Brickhouse is, but he's, him and I have shared ideas, so to speak. Anyway, we were at the motel there. I can't remember the name of the one that has the big breakfast in the morning. Oh, what's the name of that place? It's still there. We haven't been back since it switched owners, but they had their big breakfast out. My dad has cataracts. Can't see real well. So he goes I said, what are you going to have for breakfast, Dad? He said, I'm going to have my normal cereal, toast, and coffee. He goes, grabs his cereal, toast, and coffee, and I go and get scrambled eggs and sausage and toast and orange juice and stuff. And I come back and sit down across from him. He goes, man, this milk tastes like depression milk. I go, what's depression milk taste like? He said it tastes like water. So I looked over into his bowl, and sure enough, it was water. I said, it tastes like water 'cause it is water. He said, damn, they put the water pitcher next to the milk pitcher. I couldn't tell the difference. Oh, boy. He's still with us. With me, anyway. Talked to him last weekend. He's 96. World War II vet. Been in every battle in the Pacific. He was on AO 62. The only tanker hit by a kamikaze during World War II that didn't sink. They all sank. He got some hellacious stories about that. So, for you younger guys that don't think the older guys know anything, you better pay attention. Because they really know some stuff. We were talking about Lou Willard today. I think Lou Willard was about, I don't know, 98, 96. He was at our contest and he had a couple little granddaughters. And he gets so excited, he'd be jumping around like he was 10 years old. I told Jerry, that was just today, I said, Jerry, I bet he was dead beat when he got back to the motel room. Thank you, Craig. Yeah, my dad was quite something, or still is quite something. Really smart guy, super smart. He was a mechanic back when I was a kid, before they opened the pool supply store and the toy store and the hobby shop. He had his own shop in El Monte. And he told me never go into my toolbox. Well, that's part of the reason why I'm a mechanic, because of my dad. But anyway, never go into my toolbox. Well, I was building go-karts at the time, and he had a double tubing flare tool in there it would make a perfect brake stop. And I put it on my go-kart and went out in the field and lost that brake, or that double flaring tool. And that's the first thing he beeline. He knew I took it out of there or something. He beelined for the toolbox and got that out. I said, where is it? I said, I don't know. He said, you better find it. Anyway, after a couple, I don't know, half an hour, 45 minutes, hour, couldn't find it. Big old ruckus going on. He swatted me with a 2x2, 8-foot long 2x2 board. Broke over my back. It hurt. It didn't really hurt. It just, kind of scared you, because there's no leverage on it. Plus, it was long. Anyway, my mom was freaking out. He said, you can and will do anything you set your mind to. And that's probably the best gift he gave me. Because I can and will do anything that I want. Okay, let's go over here. So we're just going down. Oh, you want to know the measurements on the Junar. This wing here, there are no plans for this airplane. That's the first given. This wing here is a USA 1 wing that's about 3/16 of an inch thicker before I add another 3/16. So it's probably 3/8 of an inch thicker than a I'd have to get out those plans and measure it, but it's between 1/4 and 3/8 of an inch thicker finished than a USA 1 wing. So it has 11.5 inch chord, very breasty. It only has a 58 inch wingspan. That's less than a USA 1. Let's see what the nose moment is here on this. There's a couple of things that I did on this airplane that I really thought about before I put it together, and I'm glad that I sat and thought about it. And I talk about it from time to time, clock time, so on and so forth. From the front of the leading edge to the back plate of the spinner is 10.25 inches. However, the motor is set back 3/4 of an inch. So the active 3/4 of an inch. So the active nose moment is 9.5 inches. But don't make your airplane 9.5 inches. It won't balance unless it's real light. So it's 10.25 inch nose. My airplane's pretty short, coupled due to clock time. And the tail moment, I believe, is 16.5. It's 16.25. Tail moment is 16.25. Now I've tried all different moments on the same platform, and the 16.25, 10.25 seems to work the best as long as the motor's set back 3/4 of an inch. If you followed along in any of my previous videos, you've also seen that I cut out this area here, and the tank fits back into the wing. So I'm sliding the tank back into the wing, and I slide it as far back as I can get it without touching the bell crank. So that's what I'm doing is I'm moving the mass towards the center of gravity. Now in order to do this operation, the airplane has to be light, because if my Junar were to have come out, at say, what's going on here, 64 ounces, it'd be so tail heavy it's ridiculous. This airplane's 58 ounces. So this number here is 10.25. The motor's set back 3/4 of an inch. This is a light engine. It's a Super Tiger instead of a PA. This number here, 10.25, 11.5. The flaps on this, I believe, are 2 3/4 at the root. The hinge line to hinge line is 16.25. Now, these guys do all this math and all this other nonsense. How I figure the size of the stab is by the size of the wood that's available. So the root of the stab is 4 inches, and the root of the elevators are 4 inches. The length of the elevator and stab are inboard wing dimensions. So from the center of the wing on the trailing edge out, that's how big the stab is. So it's about 29 inches. And that works out real good. The side area of the rudder, I just looked at a picture and I kind of copied it out, and I go, well, that's about right. You want your rudder from the center line to the tip of the propeller. That's how. So it's that far, and it's that far. I just eyeball it, you know, because the rudder is to keep it from rotating. The side area for the weather vaning properties, and the rudder to keep it from, what do they call that? The vortex coming off the propeller, because the wind coming off the propeller is going like this. So you want it at least as tall as one half of your propeller blade. So this is a 13.6. So that's going to be 6.5 inches tall from the bottom of the stabilizer plate to the top of the rudder, 6.5 inches. These numbers that I'm spouting off, I'm not an engineer or rocket scientist. I just built a lot of airplanes. While my airplane that I just showed you looks like a Warbridge design, it looks like a Warbridge design, but it's different. I like the way he did things in the classic sense, so I built around that look. That's very similar to his USA 1, which is the aesthetics of the, I can't even say this, I call it the appendix, but it's the aptrix. Jerry Worth had an aptrix, and Billy said, I like the looks of that. He designed the USA 1, so they look the same, but they ain't. And that's basically what my airplane is. It looks like a Billy airplane, but it ain't. That one up there, the High Roller, I flew it at last year's Nats. I don't know. I'm going back the other way. It has some characteristics I don't care for, which is all that concentrated weight in the nose. It's light. It's 62 ounces, and that's pretty good for a piped airplane. But here we go again. 58, 62. That's 4 ounces, but it's all in the nose. It wouldn't be so bad if it was someplace else. Carrying around the pipe and all that other business. Well, thank you, Craig. Yeah. The thing, like the Thunderbolts, I really like the look of the Billy's Thunderbolt. So in 2004, I was standing on the L-pad at the World Competition with Billy, and I took a bunch of pictures of that airplane. Before the plans came out, there were no plans. He said, "What are you doing?" And I got out my dressmaker's tape. I keep one of these kind of handy because they have no chance of scratching up an airplane. I was taking numbers off of his airplane, measuring his airplane. So, what are you doing? I'm going to build a couple of these. Well, I did build 3 of them before the plans came out. And the plans are nothing like his airplane. Anybody that can get the measurements off Billy's airplane, just all you got to do is measure his airplane and then measure the plans that came out from the AMA. Not the same. Anyway, mine were the same as Billy's. And a few years later, we're standing on the L-pad, and Billy said, "You going to build any more of them?" "Nope." He said, "How come?" Poor design. He about snapped his neck off when looking at me. He said, "What do you mean?" I said, it's got a big air brake. It's like flying a piece of plywood. Little did I know, his airplane is only 53 ounces, where my airplanes were mid 60s, closer to 70. There's just so much lumber in that thing. And it had a super nice. It sat on the front row 2 or 3 years in a row. It's in Win Paul's History of Stunt 2007 Plane of the Year, if that ever comes out. Nice looking airplane. But I don't want to build airplanes that just look nice. I want airplanes that'll perform. And I never could figure out what my friend Ron O'Toole was telling me. Man, you're going to have a bunch of wall bangers with all that weight. It's all about weight. The guy was absolutely right. You can't beat a light airplane. I don't care what anybody says. My Tucker is 42 ounces. I think it's 2 ounces overweight. But I won't be adding 6 ounces to the center of gravity to try to make it fly right. If it don't fly right, I didn't build it right. So hopefully we'll get to try that airplane here shortly. We have been on "49 minutes." When I was in high school, all the kids were smoking. Well, I smoked, but they'd go out behind the library in high school and smoke cigarettes. I bet nobody can guess what I did behind the library. I sanded airplanes. I had this Canadian friend, Rob Gow. Wonder whatever happened to him. We'd bring parts to school, put them in our locker. I'd go behind the library and sand. Of course, the last year, my senior year, was not much academics. Auto shop, metal shop, wood shop, physical education, auto shop. I didn't have any I didn't have any academic classes. They were all fun. It was just like going to work. We for the guys that are a lot younger than me, I mean, I don't know how many guys are interested in my channel that are, millennials or Generation Z or X or whatever. We were taught shop and woodworking and things in high school. Today, they don't even teach you math. Can't even read a tape measure. It's terrible. I wish I'd have took typing in school, though. That's for sissies. But I wish I'd have done that. I had to teach myself how to type so I could code this stupid website. Had to teach myself PHP and we first started in HTML, but it was too slow. Well, we're almost there. I guess I'll run this, let's see here. I'm going, well, Big Iron, let me tell you what Tommy Looper taught me. You want to make it look good, go get yourself some lamp black if you want to make it look old and used. Lamp black is like a chalk, and they use it for pouncing signs. And what that represents, what that'll represent is weathering or dust or dirt on the engine. Just saying, you might want to look into that. There's probably a video on YouTube of weathering using chalk or lamp black, if they even sell it lamp black anymore. Can't hardly buy anything that works anymore. Oh, that reminds me, I got a gallon of primer in the back of my car. I finally ran across the ingredients to DC 540. Haven't tested it yet, but I bought a gallon of primer that has xylene, toluene, methyl ketone, methyl isopropyl ketone, and then they want you to thin it with acetone, but I think that's too hot. I'll have to use dope thinner. But I'll give it, and you know the funny thing about this was, I'm at work in Ohio, and it's the place that makes it is back where I live. They had to ship it to me here. So $55 a gallon, which is reasonable. That included the shipping. But I'm going to make my own DC 540. You guys keep taking away the stuff that works. I forgot all about that. It's in the back of my car. Been toting it around for a week now. Okay, we're coming to the end where I need the slot opened up. I'll show you how I do that. And we'll wrap it up after I slot those last two ribs. I hope you guys have enjoyed my goofy stories of my childhood, my dad. One last story of my dad. I don't know how my dad survived my childhood. We lived on a really nice suburban street in West Covina, which is a suburb of Los Angeles. The summers are real mild and the winters are not bad at that time. We had this Christmas tree that we bought. My dad didn't like to kill things. He's a great ornamental horticulturist. He's really good at growing stuff. I've seen him stick a stick in the ground and it grow into a tree, and I'm not kidding you. A big tree. Anyway, we bought a live Christmas tree and planted it in the front yard. And after a few years, it grew about 60 foot tall. It was over the top of the wires. I mean, it was huge. Anyway, we had a garage. The garage was here. The Christmas tree was out here. And we had hedges behind the garage and a 8-foot high block wall. Well, the Bevins boys next door They were Larry and Laverne. That Laverne. I haven't heard that name in a long time. Anyway, this kid named Frank Prosser, ran away from home. And we cut out of the bushes a room and got some cinder blocks and put a piece of plywood down on the cinder blocks, and we had these vents in the bottom of our garage, and I took and snipped out a hole and I stuck an extension cord through there, and he had a little TV propped up back there in the bushes. And the neighbor across the street, Louis Cianci, said, "Dick," that's my dad's name, Richard, said, "Dick, I see lights." I see lights flickering in the bushes. He goes, "What?" He goes, "Yeah, I see lights at night flickering in the bushes." He said, "You know, I've been finding beer cans underneath the Christmas tree. I'll go look." My dad peeks in the bushes. There's Frank, kicked back on the mattress, watching TV. My dad says to Frank, he says, "What are you doing?" "What are you doing here?" And he says, "I live here." He said, "No, you don't." He comes into the house and he yells at my mom and he says, "Dorothy, we have squatters." Excuse me. "We have squatters in the front yard." I remember it like it was yesterday. That's when I was building airplanes out in the garage. Anyway, he got thrown out of the bushes. It was quite hilarious. You had to be there, I guess. "Dorothy, we have squatters in our front yard." I guess. All right, let's do the last rib here, or the last two ribs here. It's the inboard wing, so you know your lead outs are going to pass through here. You don't want to make this one quite as hollowed as the other ones, because we're only going to have one hole in this, not two. So I figure that the lead outs are going to be about equally spread between this one. Sometime I'll tell the story about how I hung myself on the front porch. Oh, that just about killed my mother. And no, I really didn't hang myself. It just looked like it. Last time my dad was at the Nats with me, we drove to where he grew up, Barron Springs, Michigan. We left the Nats and drove up to Barron Springs, which is right straight up from Muncie. I can't remember the name of the road. Went up there, looked around. He was just like me. He did the same kind of shit. My grandfather liked fish. And so my dad, and I still got one of his lead army men. He used to cast lead, and he'd do that down in the furnace room in the basement. Well, like I said, my grandfather liked fish, so he would clean out the fish tank and take the sand out of the fish tank and use it as sand casting. And any of you guys ever done any casting? I've done some sand casting. Can you imagine the smell of fish sand with molten lead hitting it? They'd stoke the furnace, and my grandmother yelled down in the basement, "What's going on down down there? Smells like hell." Of course, it didn't smell like hell. It smelled like something else. Uh-oh. I just killed this rib. Smells like shit. So, my dad did the same kind of stuff I did. That lead army man is really cool. Looks just like the old green army man we used to get, only it's made of lead. Get that furnace stoked up, get a coffee can going, melt the lead in there, and then pour it in that fish sand. Hope I'm not boring you with the funny stories. It's real hard to talk for an hour by yourself, like I've said several times. Okay, that's how the outboard rib's done. It's still got those center sticks, but it's a pass-through. Tomorrow night I will make the hinge blocks and put the top sheeting on it. I don't think I'll get far enough to do the molding of the leading edge, but yeah. Okay, last rib. You got to kind of, in your mind, know where the lead outs are going to come out. You don't want to have this last rib cut too short, because then the last part, there's not a whole lot of support out there. You can pretty much smash the wing. So I only make it, approximately, I don't know, it looks like 4 inches, because that's where the path of the lead outs are going to go. If you want, you can cut an extra hole back here, but it's immaterial. We're talking grains, and this is this is good 3.5 pound wood, so you want to have a little strength. It's only 16th. It's not 3/32 or anything like that. Hope I've been entertaining for you tonight. I guess I should start telling a couple stories on every build, because I got a lot of them. When they stole the slide off the roof. Okay. 2 more sticks and we'll be done for the night. Make sure you like, subscribe, share. I'm going to try to get some way back up and going so we can chat. Now, we can still chat on Jitsi. We just can't stream for some reason. Haven't figured that out. They're having an issue. So what might happen is we might make an announcement on YouTube to let you know that we're going to be having a live session. Then you go over to Stunhanger, and remember, if you're going to try to register on Stunhanger, you must use your real first and last name, or I won't approve you. I mean, I see guys try to sneak through all the time. There's a reason for that. A computer can't read logic. There's a couple questions in there, and the instructions are real plain. First line, you must use your real first and last name. And if you put in Joe Bellcrank or some nonsense like that, it ain't going to fly. And that's to keep the spam down. Damn. Guess I used the knife. If all these parts are cut right, they fit perfect. Okay. Where's my little triangle? There it is. I don't have any 1/4 inch, so I'm going to have to mill my own 1/4 inch. I'll show you how I do that. Probably do it out of 3/8. I think 3/8 will be enough thickness. I might have to do it out of half, but come on. Well, there you have it. The wing is pretty much complete, except for the leading edge. I mean, I'm thinking about making my shear web for the trailing edge before I put this piece on, which I've never done before, but I see no reason why it wouldn't work. It would just help the fitments. Now I'm just checking to make sure that all these half ribs are the same height. I'll check it with a straight edge. That one there seems a little high. Might have to sand on that one. Alright guys, that about wraps the show up for the night. I appreciate you watching. Let's see, I'll read this here. No, SD70 Ace will not work on Stunhanger. You must use your real first and last name. You won't get through. Thank you, Craig. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff I did as a kid. You got to have an email address that's good too, because you're going to get a link back to tell you to log in. You know, a lot of guys try to put in the wrong email address and so on and so forth. So that ain't going to work either. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. I'll try to get the chat room up and going for you guys. Uh, the next in the next day or so, or I don't know what we're gonna do. Let me talk about this ending screen here. The ending screen there, built not bought by with X-Acto, and how many guys know who the chicken is? Da 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 da. That's Ambroid, the glue we used to use. All right, guys. Good night. Appreciate you watching. Like, subscribe, and share. We'll see you again probably tomorrow. All right. Thanks. Fair winds, tight lines. See ya.